All right, so we're going to talk about why children will regress, will turn into a different person when you change the environment. So I just got off a call with a client of mine, and her son, he went from Singapore back to India. And during this time, this type of change in environment made him into a different kind of boy. So in Singapore, he used to be talking a lot more. He was using sentences. He was able to take the mother's modeling and language inputs and turn it into something that is meaningful. But in India, what happened was that the boy shut off and didn't want to do any of the things that speak or say anything or use sentences that he already knew. When we got on a call, I think the biggest hurdle for the mother was the behavior, because this is not a language problem anymore but a behavioral problem. So a lot of parents will ask me about regression, right? I'm going off the script here to tell you that regression, whether it happens or not, most of the time, right, it's a behavioral issue. Is that children don't want to show what they know anymore, or that like the behavior of using the words and the sentences were actually for a different reason than you expected it to be. So I'll give you some examples later on, but okay. But I want to finish my story here. We currently are still thinking about how to deal with the situation. I'm not telling you that by a stroke of my hand I can tell the parent what to do. It's a process of trial and error. Okay. So whilst trial and error, what should we do? If you're new to this channel, I talk a lot about using rewards, and rewards are great. Rewards are incentives to do something. And this mother said, I never needed any rewards to get him to do anything back in Singapore. But then moving to India, it doesn't matter what rewards she gave, because the child would become dysregulated and just run around. So when I saw the videos, I was like, interesting, because the child didn't want to attend to any of the things that the mother was trying to teach, but he was snatching the snacks and the reward. He didn't just use snacks. He used a bunch of toys and tools and stuff, so that I don't get shtick about, oh my god, Ming is talking about using like snacks and screen time as rewards. That's not the point, because what I saw was that her son didn't understand the reason for the reward. All he saw was that the mom was taking the reward on hostage and not giving it to him. So then you started to see his fingers like this hyperextending, his feet like just going forward, hyperextending as well. And it was stressful. I pointed that out to the mother, and she was like, yeah, this is dysregulation. I'm like, not really. The reason for why he was being like that was because he didn't see a meaningful way to get the reward, and he couldn't wait. And he's not used to the rewards, so to speak. So then what we should do in this situation is to tell the child how many times he needs to do something until he gets what he wants. Okay, so this is something that is on the mother, and I've asked her, look, you don't know how to use rewards just yet in an effective manner. In his perspective, you are not allowing him to get the stuff you're presenting to him. And the more you talk about waiting, there's no deadline to it. So it's like going to work, and then the boss is, okay, I'll give you salary after a month. That's the general expectation. Sometimes it's 2 weeks. I don't know where you are in the world. Okay, doesn't matter. But what if you didn't know the schedule, the timeline for getting paid? 9 times out of 10, I think most people would just say, I'm not doing this anymore. I would much rather I do nothing and earn more, because there's a overhead in going to work. And the same for children. It's like there's an overhead, there's an expense of listening to you. There's opportunity cost. He could have been doing something else. He could have been jumping. He could have been running. He could have been on a slide. So at the end of the day, we have to treat children like human beings, like adults sometimes. And that is because if we want them to do something, to teach them something outside of the comfort zone, we have to tell them how many things they need to do in order to get what they want. And so if you don't have that contract, what's going to happen is your child's not going to listen to you. I've said this multiple times, even with the clients, the coaching clients that we have with agents of speech. What happens is that the child fails to understand what the parents are proposing, and that is on the parent and on us, right, as the teacher. Because if we don't tell the child how much effort they need to exert in order to get what they want, at the end of the day, it's going to end up with protests, end up with hyperextensions in this case, and then the mothers will say, oh, rewards don't work because it's dysregulating him. I would much rather to go back what I've learned, which is to model and to narrate and to describe everything that I see. But it will only serve you, and I've talked about this multiple times, and the reason why I'm so big on using structured task approach in these situations is because it's easier for the mothers. It's easier for the dads. If I were to teach parents, if we were to teach parents to do a bunch of like very naturalistic play and stuff, it takes a long while. So back to the story, I was like, okay, so when we change the environment, the behavior has changed. And it reminded me of myself, my own story of when I was younger, I was living abroad. And when I went back to Hong Kong, I could not get used to the kindergarten. Okay. And it was so bad because everyone had this like very tight necktie, I think bow tie thingy. And then it would pinch my neck. And I had to be in a uniform and everyone was in lines and stuff. It's gonna help some children, but I would used to be free. I'm used to doing my own thing, so to speak. So when I got there, I would get pretty mad. And one day, because I wasn't following the rules, so to speak, the teacher was like, okay, you know what, Ming, you don't need to come to school anymore. And 3-year-old me would be like, okay, sure, I'm not coming to school. So the next day, I didn't go to school, and my mom was like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, the teacher told me not to go, so I'm not going anymore. So I actually surprised myself when I heard the story back. I actually still remember all the pain and suffering just because I'm not used to it, right? So I can in this story, kind of empathize with this boy because what he had before, how he grew up, and this change of environment changed his whole language profile. And it's not a language issue; it's a behavioral issue. Right? It is a problem with his behavior and his regulation and what he's used to, what he's not. So then I was like to the mother, look, whatever that you were doing before with therapy and stuff isn't going to work anymore because the way that he responds to you is different. So we have to take more of a behavioral approach because what are we going to do? We're going to introduce more, talk more, narrate more, and annoy the heck out of him because the mother already sent me a bunch of videos. We were doing some coaching already. And then what happened was like, she kept on talking and the child was like rolling around, doing nothing, not responding. And I was like, look, I think he's functionally like a single word level user. And she was like, no, he can speak in sentences before. And then she sent me a bunch of audio files on our platform, which is, if you go to www.school.com/AOS, you'll see a huge community there. So I don't want you to send me files out of nowhere, obviously, but I'm just telling you it's a free community with free courses. And then if you want any coaching, you can reach out there. All right. Anyways, when I heard those audio files on the call today, I was like, interesting. So he can actually say somewhat of a full sentence. And the mother was having trouble generalizing. This is a term of meaning if someone can do something in a specific situation, they cannot generalize into different situations, so to speak. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I looked into it and I realized that the biggest problem was that there wasn't enough structured play. So because the mother wasn't very well versed with just taking over the task and teaching a child how to play something, and it was always doing a lot of follow child's lead, talking over what is happening right now, she doesn't know how to sell a toy, set up a play that is fun for a child. And she was like, oh no, I think I'm teaching something too easy, and therefore I'm like, he thinks that it's like kind of useless, or I know this already and he doesn't want to pay attention. I'm telling you, people in general like consistency, they like routines. So that's why you see a lot of children who are speech and language delayed or on the spectrum, either or both. They will like recite ABCs, talk about numbers, talk about bus stops, whatever, because they like, is it too easy for them? Obviously. But then do they stop talking about it? In fact, if you like ask them about it, they will actually want to talk about numbers, alphabets, planet names, whatever. So why is that? It's because they like the consistency and the routine. So therefore, if a child doesn't have these routines, we have to instill it into them, right? So it comes down to, first of all, creating a setting where you can use rewards to reward the behaviors that you want. Because this boy was getting out of the chair and running around and he's nearly 5, right? So we need to get him school ready. So therefore, we need to get him to sit down, right? We cannot allow him to do whatever he wants. because in school in India, they're not very, very nice with students. They would like, and this is what I heard from the mother, is like they would scold them, they would hit their hand or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how it is there. I'm just recounting from another parent. And therefore, if a child grew up in an environment where it's all about praising good behavior instead of punishing, it would turn them off immediately, just like how I was. So at least 10 to 15 minutes a day of sitting on a chair where there's a lot of rewarding, right? The moment they sit down, they already get rewarded, right? And then we start doing easy things that let them know, okay, if I do 2 to 3 tasks, I will get a reward. Doesn't matter what it is. And then that aside, we have to teach new routines that are play sequences. So I told the mother, look, he doesn't speak in sentences because there's no need to speak in a sentence. He can just say one word and get the message across. So then what we need to do is to like go outside of the flashcards that she had been doing and start doing some play. We start off with a sequence of events that the mother has to sell to the kid, right? What do I mean by that? In the play sequence, it means there are at least 3 steps of doing something. Now, the example I gave the mother was Peppa Pig because her son loved it. So there's a slide, there's mud, it could be Play-Doh, the mud could be Play-Doh, and then there's a shower head. So what we do is like Peppa Pig slides down, or Peppa Pig plays the slide, right? Peppa Pig plays in the mud, Peppa Pig goes for a shower, right? So there are 3 steps and 3 items that the items have a function, have a verb associated with it. So then after Peppa Pig finishes, she goes to sleep. Oh, I don't know, whatever. And then next it would be George. George does the same. George plays the slide. George plays in the mud or squats in the mud or whatever. And then George takes a shower. And then George goes off, right? And then Mommy Pig and Papa Pig and whoever that is within that theme. Okay. As you can see, it's the same. It's a format of a routine that is always the same. And how we make it easy for him is that we only change the subject, which is the person, Peppa Pig or George or whatever. And then after that, what we can do is we can take out one of the items and change it to something else. Like rather than a slide, it could be a swing. We could add more steps, and it would increase the flexibility. And this is where the mother was saying, oh yeah, that makes sense, because the Singaporean speech therapist said that he is a GLP. He's a Gestalt language processor. And I'm like, it doesn't matter whether he is or not. What we're trying to do is to increase his flexibility. You can look at all the stages and go through and go, oh, he's in stage 2, stage 3. Doesn't matter, man. As long as we're teaching functional language that is pushing him towards using better form sentences for a very specific reason, it doesn't matter if he's analytic, Gestalt, or however he processes language, right? You are doing the thing. Like how you process language is about, like, how do you teach someone with the different processing is about the cues and prompts that you give, right? It's not about the thing that you're shooting for. Obviously, choosing the target is very important, and then how you prompt is also very important. But then the activity itself, it doesn't really matter that much. Okay, dealing with get a lot of questions from parents. Look, before Gestalt language processing became mainstream in the speech therapy world, we have been teaching children to talk in sentences since forever. So in my case, it would be 10 years, right? We've been doing this forever, right? So it doesn't matter what stage they're at, as long as we're shooting for a correct language goal and we're prompting and cueing in the appropriate way that the child learns, right? It doesn't matter how they process it. We do the personalization, the techniques go inside the prompts, because the most important step of therapy, in any therapy, is about the prompts and the cues, right? If you're doing physiotherapy, it's about what kind of assistance you're helping, right? If you're doing like other types of therapy, like even these optic therapy, I don't know what they're called, is about changing the lenses, right? Braces, right? Is about changing and prompting, and you giving them a structure appropriate to what the person is like, individualized. So individualization doesn't come in the activity, it doesn't come in the activity, but it comes in the target and how you prompt. Okay, those are the only things that we can change. So that's what I told the mother here. Okay, and to circle back all the way, if you're talking about regression, we're talking about speech delay, we're talking about like how a person will change because of an environment. You have to remember, as a parent, you always have the key to all of this. We had a coaching client. She lived in Russia, in fact. And so when she paid for the coaching, she had to use someone else, because like in Russia, everything is in blocked. So she couldn't use a credit card with us. And it was strange. Who's this person with this Russian address, speaking kind of Russian and some Arabic? And every time we went on a call, she would say, "Oh, I don't know what to do with the school and stuff." And I'm like, you know what? Sometimes I wrote an email that I sent to everyone, like every week. I try to write one every week. And then she took one of the things that I said to heart about changing the environment, and she actually moved to the UAE, moved to Dubai or Abu Dhabi. I don't know which one, like around those areas. So there, it solves all the problems, okay? Because then there's English and Arabic, and there's loads of therapy services. And now she's not blocked to pay for our services either, because she's living somewhere else. This is an extreme version of how to change your environment. But remember, it always comes down to behavior first. If the behavior doesn't work, it doesn't matter what language you're going to teach. The stuff that I talked about just now, you can just throw it out the window, because I've been looking at so many videos that parents are setting us, and most of the time, children aren't even caring. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy, because you can give, and I can give you all the toys, all the things, all the formats, all the worksheets, speech therapists online. There are loads of them on IG nowadays. We're all online now. And then parents are telling my clients are telling me, man, you got to go on these like reels and short forms. No one's going to watch these long form videos from you anymore. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. That's correct. I think so too. Everyone's attention span is getting smaller and smaller, shorter and shorter. So if you're still watching up to here, it means that you're an awesome person. Okay. What I'm trying to say is, you can consume as much information as you want over the internet about specific topics, but doing it is a different matter, right? You can download all the cheat sheets. You can listen to speech therapists all over the internet. It doesn't need to be me, right? You can try the stuff, but if you don't have the behavior, don't have that working relationship with your child, there's nothing you can do. I'm serious, because I've seen this so much. That's why we're in parent coaching now, right? It doesn't matter if the child comes to me and they're like super obedient, they speak in sentences, they talk a lot more. Once you go home, if it's the same story over and over again, the problem is that you don't know what to do. It's not your child's fault, it's your problem, okay? And this is where a lot of parents, a lot of mothers will break down and feel really, oh, it's my fault, and whatever. My response back to them is, I don't know how this is your fault at all, like how your child got this kind of delayed or not. Like no one chose to it, and even your child, they didn't put their hand up and say, oh my god, I want to be delayed. No one says that. But the problem is, it cannot become our fault. You cannot allow that to become your fault. We need to take massive action, right? We need to take ownership of the situation. We cannot be a victim of the circumstances. And that's what I'm trying to tell parents every time. It's like, dude, like from a Chinese dude on the internet, look, there's so many things that you can do, so many people you can listen to. Just do something about it. It doesn't need to be with us. It doesn't need to be with me. Do it so that you can tell your child that, hey, I've tried everything, right? This is as much as I can do. And then this is what we're trying to help the child habilitate into the world. And I'm going off on a rant now, but I'm going to finish it. I'm digressing. I want to finish this thought. A lot of parents, they go out on a crusade to find different ways to help. X, Y, Z, talk tools, prompt, floor time, DIRDD, whatever the acronyms are nowadays. It doesn't matter. You have to start doing it. Okay? Because the more you do, the more you know about your child. The more you know after that. Like, for instance, the other day we had a client. After doing a bunch, when you realized that he had a hearing loss, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense, because those are the sounds that he was missing, the high frequency ones. He must had some hearing loss at some point in his life. And turns out after we took it out, his behavior got better, everything got better. And I'm like, hallelujah. But then if you don't do these things, we wouldn't know. And then I can give you another example. USA parent, she didn't know where her child was nonverbal for a very long time. But then until we got her child to start imitating verbally at home, we realized that is more of a speech disorder more than a language delay or autism. That it wasn't even, it was the wrong diagnosis. The real diagnosis was that it was a speech disorder. And I was like, dude, let's just teach your child as many sounds as we can. And then we're on the road now to making words now. So at the end of the day, choose a path, do something. Doesn't matter if your child is regressing, Doesn't matter if your child has a problem, change what we can change, do what we can do, and then we have more information to make better decisions. All right. So that's all for this video. If you haven't, go to www.agentsofspeech.com/course. Go there, sign up. There are loads of free resources, courses, and a huge community of parents. Use that resource, man. Just use it. You can search all you want, do whatever you want. Dude, these courses used to be paid, man. I think that nowadays there's so much info on the internet, you can just chat GPT it or like just search with an AI tool or whatever. But the problem is you need to take in the info and actually do something about it. Okay. And at any time of the way that you feel like, oh my God, you're stuck or whatever, you can think about getting our paid coaching. That's entirely up to you. You should get some coaching, whether with us or not, because you at home thinking in your brain, like just living in your own mind, thinking, oh, why is this happening? Just get a third set of eyes. Okay. So it doesn't need to be with us, but that's all for today. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.